Jesus is arrested. After Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to a place where there was a garden, which he and the disciples entered. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas brought a detachment of soldiers together with police from the chief priests and the Pharisees. And they came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing all that was to happen to him, came forward and asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus replied, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, "I am he," they stepped back and fell to the ground. Again, he asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. So if you are looking for me, let these men go." This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken. "I did not lose a single one of those whom you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it, struck the high priest's slave, and cut off his right ear. The slave's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?"
Silence in the court.
This is not a trial. No one is accused of anything. We just want to know what actually happened. Now, you were with Jesus the night he was arrested. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then why were you there?
Well, we were his special followers.
We followed him for nearly 3 years, helping him with all the healing and preaching he did.
So you knew him well. You were friends of his.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, we knew him very well.
We loved and admired him.
So in the garden that night, what did he do?
Well, he was really worried and maybe even a bit frightened.
You could tell because he was sweating very badly, big drops of sweat.
He went to a little bit away by himself to pray for strength and guidance.
And what did you do?
We fell asleep.
Fell asleep, sir.
You fell asleep? He was worried. You were his friends, and yet you fell asleep?
Oh, I know.
But it had been a long day.
We were very, very tired.
We woke up as soon as he came back, though.
And then?
And then we fell asleep again.
We're so sorry now.
You see, we just couldn't keep awake.
In fact, we only woke up properly when the man with the swords and clubs came.
And then what did you do?
Well, Peter tried to fend him off.
He struck a servant, but Jesus told him to stop.
The rest of us didn't do anything really. We were frightened.
As soon as we could, we ran away.
You ran away? You left him on his own?
I know.
We're really, really sorry.
We all said we wouldn't, but we all did.
We're so sorry.
Oh, yes, you're sorry now.
Peter denies Jesus. So the soldiers, their officer, and the Jewish police arrested Jesus and bound him. First they took him to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jews that it was better to have one person die for the people. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since that disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest, but Peter was standing outside the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who had guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. The woman said to Peter, "You are not also one of the man's disciples, are you?" He said, "I am not." Now, the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around it and warming themselves. Peter also was standing with them and warming himself. Then the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face, saying, "Is that how you would answer the high priest?" Jesus answered, "If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But if I have said rightly, why do you strike me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. Now, Simon Peter was standing and warming himself. They asked him, "You are not also one of the disciples, are you?" He denied it and said, "I am not." One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Did I not see you in the garden with them?" Again, Peter denied. At that moment, the cock crowed.
Silence in the court.
This is not a trial. No one is accused of anything. We just want to know what actually happened. So you were at the chief priest's house the night Jesus was taken there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Why were you there?
Well, we were summoned as witnesses.
Witnesses against him.
So you had seen quite a lot of him in and around Jerusalem.
Well, we'd seen him a bit, not a lot.
We'd heard quite a lot, though.
I mean, people were talking about him.
So what made you witnesses? You in particular. Why were you summoned?
Well, it was quite late at night. Very few people were out and about.
We were walking past the high priest's house.
Someone came out and said, "Want to earn a witness fee?"
They told us what we'd had to say and how much we'd get paid.
We're only servants, you see, so we don't have much money.
It seemed like a good chance to get a bit extra for the festival.
And the things they told you to say, had you really heard or seen them?
No, but they wouldn't tell us to say things that weren't true, would they?
The men who paid us were from the high priest, you know.
But you said you'd heard something you hadn't actually heard. That wasn't true, was it?
No, but we didn't know he was going to be killed, did we?
Anyway, in the end, they didn't need us.
We weren't important.
We just did what the elders told us to.
Yes, but you lied and he died.
I know.
We're really, really sorry.
We shouldn't have done it. We know we shouldn't, but we did.
We're so sorry.
Oh, yes, you're sorry now.
Jesus appears before Pilate. Then they took Jesus from Caiaphas to Pilate's headquarters. It was early in the morning. They themselves did not enter the headquarters so as to avoid ritual defilement and to be able to eat the Passover. So Pilate went out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered, "If this man were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and judge him according to your law." The Jews replied, "We're not permitted to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill what Jesus had said when he indicated the kind of death he was to die. Then Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you King of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I'm not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So you are a king?" And Jesus answered, "You say that I'm a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." Pilate asked him, "What is truth?" After he had said this, he went out to the Jews again and told them, "I find no case against him. But you have a custom that I release someone for you at the Passover. Do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews?" They shouted in reply, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a bandit. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged. And the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they dressed him in a purple robe. They kept coming up to him and saying, "Hail, King of the Jews," and striking him on the face. Pilate went out again and said to them, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no case against him." So Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." When the chief priests and the police saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no case against him." The Jews answered, "We have a law, and according to that law, he ought to die because he has claimed to be the Son of God." Now, when Pilate heard this, he was more afraid than ever. He entered his headquarters again and asked Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him, "Do you refuse to speak to me? Do you not know that I have power to release you and power to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no power over me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." From then on, Pilate tried to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release this man, you are no friend of the emperor. Everyone who claims to be a king sets himself against the emperor." When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus outside and sat on the judge's bench at a place called the Stone Pavement, or in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation for the Passover, and it was about noon. He said to the Jews, "Here is your king." They cried out, "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" Pilate asked them, "Shall I crucify your king?" The chief priests answered, "We have no king but the emperor." Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. Silence in the court.
This is not a trial. No one is accused of anything. We just want to know what actually happened. Now, you were in the crowd when Pilate sentenced Jesus to death. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So why were you there?
Well, like lots of people, we had come from the country.
For the festival, you see.
We come up to Jerusalem for the Passover most years.
And how did you come to be standing outside Pilate's palace?
Oh, we were just following the crowd.
Somebody told us Pilate would be coming out onto the balcony.
We just wanted to see what such an important person looked like.
And then what happened?
Well, when Pilate came out, he shouted down to us.
We didn't really know what he was saying.
But someone explained that the crowd could choose a prisoner to go free.
And you see, it happens every year, they said.
Pilate started shouting names, and people started shouting back.
Did you join in the shouting?
Oh, yes, everybody did.
It was quite exciting.
And what did you shout?
We shouted what everyone else shouted. Barabbas, Barabbas.
Release Barabbas.
And did you know anything about Barabbas?
Well, no, not really.
Actually, we'd never heard of him.
We just come up from the country, you see.
Then what?
Well, everybody shouted, "Crucify him, crucify him."
And did you shout that?
Oh, yes.
Everyone did.
Who was he?
His name was Jesus, they said.
He wasn't from Jerusalem. He was from Nazareth.
Did you know him?
No.
We didn't know either of them.
So why did you shout, "Crucify him"?
Well, we just joined in.
But it was okay. He wouldn't have been arrested if he wasn't guilty of something.
Actually, they said he was calling himself King of the Jews.
Anyway, we were just going along with the crowd.
We were just shouting for the fun of it.
Yes, but now you know he was innocent, right? You were asking Pilate to crucify an innocent man just to be part of the crowd, just for the fun of it. Is that right?
I know.
We're
I know.
really, really sorry.
We shouldn't have done it. We know we shouldn't, but we did.
We're so sorry.
What will happen to us now?
Oh, now? Now you'll have to nail him to the cross.
So they took Jesus, and carrying the cross by himself, he went out to what is called the place of the skull, which in Hebrew is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side, with Jesus between them. Pilate also had an inscription written and put on the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this inscription because the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city. And it was written in Hebrew, in Latin, and in Greek. Then the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews," but this man said, "I am King of the Jews." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers had crucified Jesus, they took his clothes and divided them into 4 parts, one for each soldier. They also took his tunic. Now the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from the top. So they said to one another, "Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it to see who will get it." This was to fulfill what the scripture says. They divided my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots. And that is what the soldiers did. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. After this, when Jesus knew that all was now finished, he said, in order to fulfill the scripture, "I am thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was standing there. So they put a sponge full of the wine on a branch of hyssop and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the wine, he said, "It is finished." Then he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
Jesus is laid in the tomb. Since it was the day of preparation, the Jews didn't want the bodies left on the cross during the Sabbath, especially because that Sabbath was a day of great solemnity. So they asked Pilate to have the legs of the crucified men broken and the bodies removed. So then the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who had been crucified with him. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. Instead, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once blood and water came out. He who saw this has testified so that you also may believe. His testimony is true, and he knows that he tells the truth. These things occurred so that the scripture might be fulfilled. None of his bones shall be broken. And again, another passage of scripture says, they will look on the one whom they have pierced. After these things, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because of his fear of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him take away the body of Jesus. Pilate gave him permission. So he came and removed his body. Nicodemus, who had at first come to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes weighing about 100 pounds. They took the body of Jesus and wrapped it with the spices in linen cloths, according to the burial custom of the Jews. Now there was a garden in the place where he was crucified, and in the garden there was a new tomb in which no one had ever been laid. And so, because it was the Jewish day of preparation and the tomb was nearby, they laid Jesus there.